Thanks for listening to the Epic Podcast. My name is Chris Aird, and in addition to being your host, I am also the owner of With Purpose, and that's a business and leadership consulting company. A couple of years ago, I attended a business conference that was specifically challenging my values, or as the panel stated, my BS. Now, if you know me, I'm not one for abusive language, so I don't need your mind to head there. The BS stands for your belief systems. Belief systems. So, what I do, how I operate, what I think about is based upon my belief systems, and it will set up, change, or end a business. In fact, after I left this business conference, I came back with a little bit of a mindset shift, recognizing that how I had been trained in the past, how I had been developed in the past. Not that anything was wrong with that, but it was literally helping me make decisions or debilitating me from making decisions. And I found out that it was really, really important that as we think about or we plan or we act upon our thoughts, that those thoughts that we're thinking, those words that are inside of our head, are so instrumental into doing what we do and into thinking what we think. So as I was thinking about that, just a few weeks ago, I was also remembering as I left that conference that years ago, I was hearing statements that were different to what I had heard when I was a kid. In fact, more specifically, the values and the interpretation of those values were different than what I was hearing. And it started to create a challenge inside of me internally. And I really started to do some in-depth research. Started asking some people that I knew, like, and trusted, that I knew that I was going to give me some sound wisdom back, some sound judgment. And as these values or the interpretation of these values were challenged, I needed to ask a couple questions of myself. And that was this: one, was what I was currently listening to right or wrong? And two, was there truth in both? Was it what I was currently listening to right or wrong, or was there truth in both? Now, I know who I'm speaking to today. You're a leader in the community. You're a business owner. You're involved in business. You're a professional. And in this, I want you to remember that as we go through this podcast together, that there are things that probably need to get rid of in your mind. Your mindset needs to shift a little bit based upon what took place years, decades ago, maybe even what took place yesterday. We'll get into this here in a moment. So, as I was thinking about all of this, I recognize that in talking about our belief systems, they really do handcuff us, or they can even chain us to the wall to which we don't think that we can get out of. At the same time, if we're open to changing our belief system, at least challenging it, then it becomes a little bit more freer. Our mind, our who we are, becomes a little bit more open. And I really want to, I mean, there's so many different directions on this that I can go, but I really want to stick on this path. So bear with me here for a moment. I started reading the book Think and Grow Rich. It was done back in the early 1900s. Um, and it's a timeless book, depending on who you ask. But for the most part, people would say that it's a timeless book if you've read it. It's an in depth book, it's a deep book. In fact, um, I love deep reading, but for some reason, I have held off on this book for the past 3 or 4 years. And so I've started reading it. And I want to just summarize this book real quick for you and describe it in a few words. First of all, this timeless book is about perseverance, it's about your belief, it's about desire, faith, and so much more. Let me just read a quick quote for you from the book. Here's the quote. For example, Helen Keller became deaf, dumb, and blind shortly after her birth. Her entire life is evidence that no one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. Let me say this again because I want this to sink in. For example, Helen Keller became deaf, dumb, and blind shortly after her birth. Her entire life is evidence that no one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality? What are you accepting today as a reality? What did you accept yesterday as a reality? What did you accept 5 years ago as a reality? What and who are you allowing to accept as a reality? Thought provoking questions. And if you're really truly interested in changing your mindset, your belief system, while these seem to be basic questions, the idea is to answer them. Maybe write those questions on a piece of paper, rewind it, go back in, write these questions on a piece of paper, and then spend some time. What did you just hear that you accepted as a reality? One of the things that as a parent that I have taught my children to do is is to question, is to challenge, is to research all the things that we hear. That includes me. I heard it from my dad. My dad was a pastor, and he would constantly tell me, whatever you hear from me on a Sunday morning or through life, challenge me on it. Open up the scriptures, he would say, and compare what I'm saying with the scriptures, what you're reading, compare my life to what you're reading. And then you get to make your decision. So I think about that even now. I think, okay, what are we doing as a professional in the community? What are we doing as a leader in the community? What are we doing as a professional or a leader in our business, an employee or a coworker? What are we doing in our relationships that could be devastating, could be harmful, could be hurtful, could be great, whatever the case might be, a proud moment because we've accepted something as a reality. I know several people who think, act, and make decisions on what happened to them years or decades ago. In fact, there's a few people right now that I'm thinking of that they're not really going to go past the barrier that they chose to put up for them because they don't believe they're worth going beyond that barrier. It's really sad. If you're to think about a business, and a business is only going to grow as far or as deep as the business owner and the team is willing to take it. And if we don't have outside wisdom coming inside the business, that business is only going to know what they know. And so when we think about our personal relationships, when we think about who we are as an individual, it really does start with you and me. It starts with me, as I shared with you about going to that conference a couple of years ago and going for one reason and pulling something completely different away from it. The way in which I run my business today has changed, shifted, altered for the better, but for the worse in a point because I've had to get away from things that I accepted in reality, people that I trusted that gave me what I thought was sound advice at that moment. But here's the other thing, as people, we mature, we know this. You learn to walk at different stages, we learn to eat at different stages, we learn to do different things at different stages. We mature as a person, as a human being. So does the business owner. You're different today than you are or were the first day you started your business. You think differently. And you might have gotten great advice or wisdom the day that you opened up your business, and even 5 years ago, or even yesterday. But as things change around us, as the community changes, as the culture changes, as the world changes, are you questioning it as well? Or are you merely accepting the reality of what is versus what should be or what can be? Does this make sense? It's really, really important as we think about cultivating who we are and tapping into untapped potential in both us, our employees, our coworkers, business owners, with us and our relationships, whatever those look like. We have got to examine our BS. We've got to examine our belief system. It's that important because things are shifting around us. And if we don't shift with them, we're going to be left behind. So as I'm thinking about these people that, as a business owner, their business is never going to grow the way that they want it to grow because they are the stopping point. They're the stopping point. There are people that like to argue based upon something that took place 15, 25 years ago that that in the business nobody knows about, but that individual as the business owner does, and it's holding him or her back from growing the business. It's catastrophic. Businesses could be providing even better services, developing better resources, providing a service even better to the community, and yet it stops or starts with the business owner, with the employees, the people that we allow in. So let me take this here and bring it down into just three different thoughts. One, our BS, our belief system, dictates our thoughts. Here's a few thoughts. Is this all there is? I've had those before. Have you? Is this all there is? Is this all there is to life? Is this all there is to the business? Am I going to have any more clients to serve or customers to provide a service to? Is this all there is? I've heard people ask me, am I worthy for the growth in my business? Am I worthy? Heck yeah, you are. Of course you are. Are you worthy? However, when I dive into those conversations with people, I find out that it took something in the past that's dictating their future. Am I worthy? Yes. Yes, you are. You're very worthy. Your past thoughts can dictate about how you feel about today and tomorrow. Past thoughts dictate about how you feel today and tomorrow, and the cycle continues. You know, I'm reminded right even right now as I'm doing this podcast that if you're driving down the freeway, let's say, or you're in your car, wherever you're headed, the front windshield is a lot bigger than the rear view mirror. Think about that for a moment. The front windshield is a lot bigger than the rear view mirror. We glance in the mirror, in the rear view mirror, to make sure that just that we're doing the things right, or that that we're paying attention to the cars that are having their blinkers on, if they have their blinkers on, or whatever's going on. But we glance constantly. We're looking through the front windshield. That's where I want your eyes to be focused. That's where I want your thoughts to be focused on, is the front. Yes, glance back, see where you've been, but pay attention to where you're going. Make sense? Value, validate, and learn from your past. Value, validate, and learn from your past. But you don't live there. You don't dwell there. You're looking forward into the future. So your belief system dictates your thoughts. Here's where else it dictates: your conversations. So a man thinketh, right? Or we know that words come from our thought process. It's also in our conversations, it's how we hear things. Um, I'm reminded even now, and I have to laugh because it's funny now. In the moment, it was horrible. You've had these conversations with people where your heart, your mind, you mean one thing, but because someone is listening or hearing something through their lens that has been dictated to them by their past, they're hearing something different. They're listening to something different. And you look at that individual and you go, is that what you took away from this? Because that wasn't the conversation. Is that what you took away from this? And when we ask the questions, we remove the assumptions, and we now get to have a dialogue, a conversation with people. I have this conversation many, many times with business owners, and it's to help us move forward in the right direction. I'm hearing this. Is this what you meant to say? I'm hearing this. Is this how you wanted to perceive it? So our conversations are dictated by our belief system. And I'm not talking about thinking positive versus thinking negative, although there is an aspect to that. But it's about challenging our beliefs so that our thoughts are changed. Therefore, our conversations are changed. It's how we respond to people. It's how we respond to business. It's how we respond to our vendors, our clients, our customers, our employees, our coworkers, our spouses, our children, family members, community. It's all about that. So our belief system not only dictates our thoughts, but it dictates our conversation. And lastly, our belief system dictates our business, the way in which things are moving forward. It helps mold, our belief system helps mold the culture of the organization. And there's so much to that. And I would encourage you to listen to past podcasts about the culture. I'm going to be talking even more about the culture of an organization. You can reach out to me here on social media or my email that's listed, or pick up the phone and call me. But the culture of your organization is dictated based upon the owner and what they allow in the culture of that organization, their belief systems as well. That's what forms and molds the business. See how important it is? It's we the belief system molds the people. You know it. You've got people that you've heard of, even personally or indirectly, that they would never work at an organization because of X, Y, and Z, or people that are willing or wanting to work at a place because of A, B, or C. You see what I'm saying? It molds that, the belief system there. So it's about the people. It molds also in the culture of the organization, the processes, how we do things, how things get done, what's allowed and what's not allowed. It's whether we're going to be effective and efficient, and whether we're going to hold people accountable through these processes. It's so gosh darn important. And the moment that we start to think about this and challenge who we are as an individual and what we bring to the table of any type of relationship, whether it's in business or out of business, we have to take the sole responsibility of that. And so the accountability is absolutely essential and important to all of this. So the molding of the or culture of the organization is about the people, the processes. It's what we do with the profit as well. How we spend the money. What are we spending it on? Who are we spending it on? How are we trying to grow the business? Are we just holding on to every single dollar because we don't know what's happening tomorrow? Or are we spending everything we can because we don't know what's happening tomorrow? There is a balance. There's a balance based upon what's good for the company, what's good for the people that are in it. So you see, it's about what we're doing with the profit and what that looks like to our consumers, our customers, the community, all that is around us. So our belief system focuses on those three areas. It dictates our thoughts, dictates our conversation, and it dictates the business. Now, I want to give you some hope here. I want to hopefully I've encouraged you, but here's some good takeaways. You ready? If that wasn't enough, your belief system can, will, and adjust if it needs to, but you're the only person that's going to be able to do that. You might have people on the outside of that influencing you to change or to adjust, or giving you a reason to think, for you to pause and think about something that's going on, but only you or myself can make that decision. We can be influenced, we can be bombarded by all these other different types of things, but only you can make the decision to change. And then sometimes things are easy enough that we can change on our own. Sometimes we need to grab a few people that we know, like, and trust, kind of in our inner circle, and we need to let them know that things are going to be changing. Sometimes we need to go out to the masses and say things are going to be changing. You get to make that call. But let me encourage you to surround yourself with a very few people that you know, like, and trust, that are going to give you wisdom. They're going to give you direction, that are going to be there for you through thick and thin and say, you know what, we're in this together. I will help you any way that I can. But you've got to pull the majority of the weight, whatever that conversation is going to look like. So your belief systems can, will, and need to adjust at certain times. The key to unlocking those handcuffs, or unlocking you from the wall, that chain that's chained to the wall, the key is to be intentional with your belief system. Look at them every once in a while. Look at them maybe even on a daily basis, and make sure that they're intact, because here's what you want to do. By being intentional, you don't want to give up. You don't want to throw in the towel. You don't want to quit. You want to follow through. And there are people such as myself that will help you do that and following through, so that your untapped potential and those that are following you, those that you're working alongside, those that you're serving, will also see that, and they will follow up with you. Allow to be challenged, but stand confident on your decision, while at the same time being flexible so that you can listen to others. I hope, I really do, I hope that this has been good for you. I really do. I want to say thank you for listening to this Epic podcast. And Epic stands for Elite Professionals in Coaching. I want to say thank you again for listening to this Epic podcast. Sometimes we're talking about nitty gritty stuff. Sometimes we're talking about other types of things that are not nitty and gritty. But I believe that they're all useful to growing the individual, to developing the individual, and growing the business. Again, my name is Chris. It's been my hope and my desire that you've been encouraged, educated, and empowered by listening. Make it a great day. Make it a great day. Smile. Think about what we've listened to together, and as I always like to say, live life with purpose.